Gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Infantryman's Guide. As is grunts, we have no say in what the weather is. We're going to operate in a combat situation, whether it's raining or shining. In this episode, we're going to be looking at wet weather gear. Everything from what's worn on your person to how you protect your individual equipment and weapon from the elements. All right, first thing I'm going to talk about is a mainstay staple to the individual infantryman, and that is the poncho. So this is an older model USGI issue poncho in the woodland camouflage pattern. If you're an armed prepared citizen, you're looking for a good poncho, I still highly recommend these. These are still very serviceable, and they're produced for many years, so there should be many of them still out there on the market. But most people think of a poncho, they think of a big, large square with a hood in the middle, right? But these are very multi-purpose pieces of gear. So you can wear these in the traditional manner. Obviously, you just throw it over your head. Right, and I can button the ends here around the wrist to clasp it down and keep it tight around the wrist so it forms the body better. And then I can also, has a drawstring, I can tighten this if need be. But this goes over me, and if I got a pack on or a ruck or anything like that, that back flap is gonna cover over that ruck and provide some rain protection for that gear that's in my ruck as well, or whatever equipment I have on my person. This is a good, easy way to quickly keep your body dry when that rain starts coming down, okay? Now, ponchos are also great for, again, multi-purpose, right? So on this poncho, you have grommets on each side, each corner. You also have buttons, so this poncho can be folded in half, and you can use it for your ranger roll for light sleeping equipment. But because you have these grommets on each corner, hard corner of this poncho, you can utilize this to make a improvised shelter, whether that's for sleeping at night, whether that's for making overhead cover in a fighting position or something along those lines. These ponchos are just fantastic. Now, what is one of the main things that we use these ponchos nowadays for? And that is simply protection of our equipment and weapon systems from the elements. We typically in the infantry use ponchos to cover up multiple packs, multiple machine guns, whether, or any other weapons for that matter. If we got cruisers staged, we're gonna throw ponchos over there. We got mortars set up, we're gonna throw the ponchos over those to protect them from the elements. So because of that, and because of the great improvements that have been made in things like Gore-Tex suit, your standard issue poncho nowadays has essentially omitted the hood. So it's the same concept, same type of design, minus a hood. Okay, so if you're looking at rain gear, let's say you're an armed prepared citizen, you want to pick up some rain gear, and you want a hood, I wouldn't buy a current issue poncho, because these are fantastic, they're very well made, but these do not have hoods on them. So keep that in mind when you're trying to pick up gear. Because like I said, because of the Gore-Tex suits, these are primarily used as protection for gear and equipment, and making improvised shelters. So I highly recommend the older USGI Woodland poncho. It's still a good serviceable buy. What shouldn't you buy? Don't buy the USGI ponchos from like the 80s that are still OD green. They have the exact same look and appearance as the Woodland ponchos. However, these are deteriorating and they smell like absolute shit. If I could put it in perspective, picture baby vomit that's been sitting in a car in the middle of a Texas 100-degree plus heat summer for a week. These just smell freaking awful. They're deteriorating, and they're not going to provide you that level of water repellency that you're probably looking for. If you want an OD green poncho, you don't want a camouflage poncho, a good quality surplus poncho that's reasonably priced is this German design poncho. Essentially, it's the same design as the USGI poncho. It has a hood in the center, and it's got all the features. It has the grommets on each corner. It has the buttons on the ends, and you can use the same practical application as any USGI poncho. The only thing about these is these are made from a different material. It's more of a heavier, probably PVC type material, but they're very well made, guys. Like I said, a little bit heavier, but you can get them at a very good price, and they will definitely do the job for you, protecting your gear and equipment from those elements. And if you're using these for a shelter, they're absolutely going to do the job for you. Okay, so what is the primary means of waterproofing the individual warfighter's body. And that is going to be the use of some sort of rain suit, okay? Going back in time a little bit, we had the what we called and referred to as Gumby suits. When I went in the Marine Corps, we were still getting issued these in SOI. When I got to Fleet, I'd get Gore-Tex, but these are still what they were giving us in SOI. And you guys can see that these are made essentially of like a heavy rubber type material, and they don't breathe well. And if it's hot and rainy, you're probably gonna go down as a freaking heat casualty, okay? So I do not recommend these, plus they're super noisy. All right, they're just not that great. So again, these are another thing that you're gonna see on the surplus market. If you're an armed prepared citizen looking for rain gear, you're gonna see something like this on the cheap, and it's gonna be tempting to buy it, even though the cut and style of these looks very similar to the Gore-Tex option. They absolutely smell like garbage, all right? Smell like baby shit, and it's gonna drive you nuts. You're not gonna be happy, okay? So don't be tempted by the great, fantastic price of these things. Look at something that's a little bit more modern, okay? In this case here, I've got a Gore-Tex parka and trousers. These are fantastic. You guys can see that these are designed to essentially, you can either wear these as a standalone, or you can put these directly over your trousers. Your preference. Typically speaking, you're just gonna throw them over your trousers because there's not gonna be time to strip down, but these can be worn as a standalone if you so choose, especially if it's really hot. You're typically just gonna be using your parka, okay? So if that rain starts coming down, you're gonna throw on your parka and you're just gonna leave your regular trousers on. If it's really raining very hard, then yeah, you're probably gonna wanna throw on your trousers and keep them a little bit more dry. I wanna point out to you guys, on most Gore-Tex trousers, they do have suspender loops built onto the inside. This is the best way to wear Gore-Tex style trousers. If you do not have suspenders, these suckers are gonna start sliding down your waist, and next thing you know, you're fire team Russian and you got freaking Gore-Tex trousers around your knees. Okay, but these are easy on, easy off. You guys can see they got Velcro and zippers on the legs that you can zip all the way up so that they're easier to put on and off over your already worn utility uniform. And these are older model USGI Woodland, so they've only gotten better with the newer generations. Obviously the Woodland has been phased out for some time now, and you can still find these on the surplus market, and you can also find stuff like the UCP, the outdated Army, since been replaced gear, and dye that. If you're not a fan of the UCP camouflage, which I am not a fan of, you can pick up that stuff and dye it brown or apple green, and it'll give you a better camouflage in my opinion. But it will still be good quality U.S. military Gore-Tex equipment, okay? So highly recommend picking up Gore-Tex suits, parkas, the issued variant, because you can find them at decent prices still. And these are essential pieces of gear for any infantryman for protection against the rain, all right? If you don't want to be wet, then you got to pick this stuff up, okay? So one of the aspects of being miserable is being wet, and we can help mitigate that with the proper gear. All right, moving forward with things that are worn on the body. So first and foremost, boots. I've got a pair of Gore-Tex boots out here. Obviously, Gore-Tex helps protect you from wet weather conditions, but these are really only useful in the colder temperatures. You're not gonna wanna wear Gore-Tex boots in the hot, humid climates. Your feet are gonna get destroyed, guys, and you're gonna get trench foot. Typically, you're wearing a jungle boot in those types of environments. Rains all the time. And unfortunately, it's just the fact of the matter is, if you're operating in those hot, humid environments where it's raining continuously, think like a jungle, your feet are gonna get wet, and they're gonna stay wet. Because your boot's gonna get wet, your socks, all your socks are gonna get wet, and you're really never gonna have dry feet. It's just miserable, and one of the worst times I've ever experienced in the Marine Corps was 4 days straight in the field, rain the whole time. By the end of it, it was boots completely soaked, all socks brought to the field were soaked. There's no way to dry any of this stuff, and literally we were just fashioning socks out of trash bags. Horrible idea, guys. They don't breathe, they're not gonna let sweat out, and you know, obviously long-term wearing of that is just gonna destroy your foot, but most of us didn't give a fuck by that point, and it was actually a very relieving feeling to have somewhat dry feet in these trash bags inside our already wet boots. So, you know, last ditch effort there, but obviously you can't sustain doing that. Another option I have here, these are Hogman brand neoprene socks, but again, these are more for cold weather environments, guys. They're fleece lined, but these will offer some protection against the wet, especially if your boots are already wet. Some guys wear gaiters. Gaiters are typically worn in the winter time frames. Typically don't wear these in the summertime, although you can, okay? But if it's raining, yeah, the gaiters are gonna keep some of that water out from getting into your boots from up top, all right, and getting down in there and getting your boots wet. And they have some other functions. They perform, they give you ankle support and things of that nature. But these Italian ones right here are literally made out of poncho material. There's not much to these. They're not the greatest, but they help emphasize the point that, hey, this is poncho material and help keep the water out of your boots. These are a lot tougher. These are Swiss surplus ones that I have here, and you can see these are fleece lined, so might be too hot for you for summer conditions, but some dudes do wear gaiters, particularly in wet weather environments. Next, we're going to talk about waterproofing our packs, whether that be a large rucksack like this one on the right or a small day pack. Generally, we're going to do that with the use of a waterproofing bag, aka a Willie Peter bag. So this is an older model here. This was typically used with an Alice pack. And as you guys can see, it's just like a thick rubber material, similar to what was on that Gumby suit I showed you earlier. But these don't smell like shit, and most of the ones I've encountered are pretty serviceable condition, okay? So you're just gonna literally stuff this inside your rucksack, lining the inside of your rucksack, and then you're gonna put the contents of your pack inside this bag, inside the rucksack, okay? So that's gonna keep it waterproof. It's also gonna turn your pack into a flotation device. So if you got to make a river crossing or forging or whatever the case may be, that pack is going to float for you, and you can use it to cross the river. All right. And these, simply just fill them up, and then you would fold these over. All right. You fold it, and then it had a built-in tie, and you just tied it off. If you don't tie it off and it's not secure, it's not going to have that flotation capability for you. Okay. In the event that you got to do that, so make sure that this is tied off before you cross those rivers. A newer model of essentially the same thing is this right here, and these even double as VA-17 air panels. The inside is that bright orange for signaling aircraft. But these are fantastic. Instead of having a ties, they have just a folding capability. All right, so you just fold these over, and then you buckle them, and then it has a valve here which tells you which direction's open and which direction's closed, and you can simply push that air out of the Willie Peter bag to get to the point where you want it, and then close it off to keep additional air from coming back inside, and then that condenses the bag, making it a lot smaller. I could get way smaller than I already made this, but I just want to show you guys, okay? So that is the two options you have for waterproofing your bag. If you're poor, or you don't, for whatever reason, don't have a Willie Peter bag, you can always just resort to using a heavy-duty trash bag. But obviously, these are prone to ripping, and you're taking a chance with that. But if you don't have one of those, this is an option, okay? Help keep your shit clean, not wet. All right, so these right here, these are just smaller versions of the newer and improved Willie Peter bags. So these work great for the smaller pockets, like the pockets on an Alice pack in the front. These are perfect for storing things like your socks in there. All right, watch caps, neck gaiters, things of that nature. You can't get wet, all right? You just throw it in there, and again, folding it, buckling it, and then you can push the air out of these. And that makes it super small and convenient to fit inside your pack, maximizing the space in there. I do want to show you this. This is an older model Alice pack Willie Peter bag. I would stay away from these. Again, these are going to deteriorate. You might find some that don't smell terrible, but eventually they will, okay? This one is like on the cusp. It's getting there. It's not quite terrible yet, but it will be very soon, okay? So I would stay away from these. There's plenty of the newer model Willie Peter bags out there. I would grab these for surplus, cheaper options, or spend a little bit more money and get a more modern one these are definitely their weight in gold, all right? These are great options. Also, a supplement for these would just be something like a Ziploc bag, all right? So if you don't have these yet, you can use Ziploc bags. They'll help keep your stuff waterproof. All right, moving on, pack covers, okay? So let me just say right off the bat that you can use a standard issue poncho as a pack cover, all right? You can just take your poncho, literally drape this around, and then you can secure it on the inside and you know, set it up so that the straps are still on the outside, and you can use your poncho as your actual pack cover. Or you can go out and buy a dedicated pack cover like I did here. And I've got several different models. These are varying sizes. Obviously, if you buy a pack cover that's designed for a large ruck, you know, it's gonna be too big for your small day pack. All right, so you're gonna wanna buy a smaller one for that. Here's an example of a smaller pack cover. And again, these are nothing more, guys, than just small poncho pack covers for your small packs or large rucks, whatever the case may be, to help keep the contents from getting soaked in those you know, wet weather conditions. So as you guys can see, this went right over my Crossfire DG1. It has elastic on it, helps keep it tight around the pack, leaving the pack straps open. And then as you guys can see, all this on the outside is protected by a exterior poncho-like material to help keep the pack nice and dry in those wet weather conditions. And when I'm done with it, I just take it off, ball it up, and put it back inside its carrying case like you see here. Takes up hardly any space, and it's definitely a good little investment, okay? So that is a good example of a pack cover that covers the day pack. And again, I have larger ones that can cover this. This is a Dutch DPM pack cover. And on this one, the pouch is actually built into the pack cover itself. But you guys can see that this is a large cover and it can go over the whole pack itself. And then it has a cord where I can tighten it down, all right? So they're out there, guys. You can look out. I got several different models here. This one's made by ProForce. This one's made by Snug Pack. And there's several different companies that make different pack covers in different camouflage patterns, colors, whatever the case may be, at different sizes, right? So just look around. If you're interested in something like that, look around and you can find the one that's most appropriate for your needs. So let's say you have some electronics that you do not want to get wet. I recommend a Pelican style case. Here's one right here. This is a 1050 model. These are actually big enough to fit PVS 14s inside there if you're so inclined to do so. I typically just run my PVS 14s in a regular pouch because that's how we do it in the military. But if you got electronics that you absolutely do not want to get exposed to rain, you know, I would put them in here. But with the caveat, if you are going to do like a river crossing or forging or anything like that, I would move this to inside your Willie Peter bag or any other actual designed waterproofing bag for the protection of those elements. But you know, you could keep this in a pouch on your gear or in the exterior pocket of a ruck, and you know, rain's not going to really do nothing to this. All right, it's only when it gets submerged in folium water that you're going to run into issues like this. What is this? This is just a cheaper alternative. Found this at Walmart, like less than 20 bucks, and you know, they essentially accomplish the same task, right? They protect the contents with a hard plastic container, and they're all right. They're not bad, but I'll tell you guys, I've used these at One Shepherd multiple times, and you're probably going to get about 2 years out of these and before this buckle right here breaks. So, and then you got to go buy a new one. So, you know, buy once, cry once, or, you know, buy another one of these every couple of years if you're going to take this route. So, your option, guys. Just want to throw this out here so you had some tools in your toolbox. Sleep gear. How do we stay dry while we're trying to catch some Z's? So typically speaking, on a military issue sleeping system, your outermost layer is going to be something like this, a bivy sack. And it literally is just a Gore-Tex bag that your sleeping system is going inside of. All right, so whatever the climate is outside, you know, that's gonna determine what type of sleeping bag you have. But the outermost layer is going to be a bivy sack, which will protect you from the rain. Now, caveat here, guys: these are not going to stay dry forever. Okay, you get enough rain, these will compromise and you will get wet. Don't ask me how I know. All right, speaking from experience. So bivy sacks are good, keeping your sleeping system dry for the most part. Other options, Ranger roll, and that's simply just folding over your poncho inside with a poncho liner inside and kind of forming a light sleeping bag. So the poncho will provide you with some protection from the rain, but it's not going to be as closed off as something like a bivy sack would be. So you could actually run a bivy sack and then have your poncho liner inside of that as your warming layer for those lighter, cool nights. And that should provide you with ample protection from the elements. But that is your, essentially, in a nutshell, the water protection that you have for sleeping at night. Well, that's it, gentlemen. That completes this episode of Infantryman's Guide over wet weather gear. Remember, rain or shine, as infantrymen, we're in the fight. If you're liking what you're seeing, don't forget to check out my channel, subscribe. I've already done several infantry-related videos, and I plan to do several more in the future. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment.